जस्टिस अहमदी साहब, नजीब जंग साहब, मेरे रावत साहब, पटवारी साहब, रजा हैदर साहब, खवातीन और हजरात, जुर्म से पहले अगर इकराम जुर्म कर दिया जाए तो शायद गुनाह में तखफीफ हो जाए। सिद्दीक भाई ने मुझसे इस लेक्चर का जिक्र किया तो मेरे जहन में ख्याल आया कि इनकार करना बहुत मुश्किल है, इकरार करना उससे भी ज्यादा मुश्किल है, तो कोई दूसरा वसीला तलाश किया जाए। एक और मुश्किल दरपेश थी जिसका कि मैं जिक्र अभी अंदर कर चुका हूं कि जब मैं अलीगढ़ में वाइस चांसलर था तो संस्कृत डिपार्टमेंट में एक कॉन्फ्रेंस थी और बतौर सदर महफिल मुझसे कहा गया कि आप कुछ कहिए। तो वहां मैंने कहा कि हर इंसान की 3 जुबानें, एक मादरी जुबान, एक सरकारी जुबान और एक सोचने की जुबान। तो मैंने वहां एतराफ किया और यहां भी एतराफ करता हूं कि मादरी जुबान मेरी उर्दू है, सरकारी जुबान अंग्रेजी और हिंदी है, हिंदी या अंग्रेजी है, और सोचने की जुबान अंग्रेजी है। अब उसके क्या वजूहात हैं वो तुलानी बात है, मगर बहरहाल सिद्दीक भाई के हुक्म की तामील करता हूं। उन्वान आज के लेक्चर का आपके सामने है। कई लोगों ने मुझे फोन करके पूछा कि भाई चाहते क्या हो, करना क्या चाहते हो। याद माजी अजाब है यार, छीन लो मुझसे हाफजा मेरा। कबल इसके कि मैं अपनी बात कहूं, the late Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad Sahib belonged to and represented another era in the life of modern India. He participated in the freedom movement and occupied high offices in state and central governments, including the highest. It was my privilege to receive him in Abu Dhabi when he paid a state visit to the United Arab Emirates in October 1976. My generation grew up in that period and imbibed the values enshrined in the Constitution of India, which itself was a product of the freedom struggle and the principles on which it was conducted. In a plural landscape, we sought to shape a secular polity, create a liberal democracy premised on the principles of justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity, to preserve the heritage of our composite culture and develop a scientific temper. In a thought-provoking book a few years back, the author Ananya Vajpayee wrote, and I quote her, "What is valuable in the idea of India and what makes India worth preserving is not just its modern political form of a political, secular, egalitarian democracy, but its legacy of centuries of reflection on the avenues available to the human mind to transcend the sufferings inherent in the human condition. Free India, India that had won its Swaraj, the India that had fought hard and envisaged by extraordinary figures like Gandhi and Ambedkar, Tagore and Nehru, was the dream of realizing. Accounts of its quest for sovereignty I found aplenty. I wanted to track its still elusive search for itself. End of the quote. More recently, 2 years back, she wrote and bemoaned the most damaging impact in recent years of, and I quote her, the slow, steady erosion of empathy as a public value, leaving us morally impoverished, lesser human beings and lesser Indians. The India of today, I confess, appears to be a very different place in its perception, articulation and practice. Above all, sections of opinion are purposefully involved in disowning the past, rewriting parts of it, distorting it to create new idols and ideas. Old India, it is claimed, is dead. That 40% of voters are now middle class, that their aspirations are understood by the leader, and that it represents a triumph of chemistry over arithmetic. Less candidly, the ideology of a cultural organization has been injected in segments of public opinion and has been imbibed almost imperceptibly in the name of the nation and national security. In a recently published book, a scholar of eminence has observed that, and I quote her, in a short space of 4 years, India has made a very long journey. It has travelled from its founding vision of civic nationalism to a new political imagery of cultural nationalism that appears to be firmly embedded in the public realm. End of the quote. जी करूँगा मैं, आप बैठिए, मैं करूँगा. जी अच्छा, आपने जो फरमाया दुरुस्त, आपने जो फरमाया दुरुस्त.
ये जब है जी मैं इंसल्ट कर दीजिए.
अरबी में बोलूँ, फारसी में बोलूँ. With some care in the constitution, decided to abandon it in favor of a unilateral and distorted reading of its own past. Why is it attempting to rewrite the history of its own freedom struggle and the values enshrined in it? Some careful observers of the Indian Sea have attributed the changes underway to populism, authoritarianism, nationalism, and majoritarianism. Each of these requires careful scrutiny. Let us begin with populism. 2 years back, an article in the American magazine Atlantic shed light on its contours. It is not an ideology, but a strategy to obtain and retain power. It is divisive, it thrives on conspiracy, finds enemies even when they do not exist, criminalizes all opposition to them, and plays up external threats. This is an American definition. In such an approach, success is shown, as Mark Twain would have said, through a combination of ignorance and confidence. Now, authoritarianism in government denotes concentration of power in the hands of a leader or a small elite to the detriment of well-settled procedures of governance. We come to nationalism. It is often confused with patriotism and used interchangeably. Both are words of unstable and explosive content, and so need to be handled with care. They differ in meaning and content, as was pointed out by George Orwell many years ago. Nationalism means identifying oneself with a single nation, placing it beyond good and evil, and recognizing no other duty than of advancing its interests. Patriotism, on the other hand, is devotion to a particular place or way of life without wishing to force it on others. Thus, patriotism is of its nature defensive, both militarily and culturally, and nationalism is inseparable from the desire for power. It is an ideological poison that has no hesitation in transcending and transgressing individual rights. Decades earlier, Rabindranath Tagore had called nationalism a great menace, describing it as one of the most powerful anesthetics that man has invented. He had expressed himself against the idolatry of the nation. We come to the last point, majoritarianism. This, in our Indian context, implies that a religious majority is entitled to primacy in society and has the right, by virtue of it, to take basic decisions related to the whole society. This is very different from an electoral majority emanating from an electoral process whose results are time-specific and subject to periodic reviews in a democratic system. Implicit in this approach is the propensity to sidestep or override the basic principles of equality enshrined in Article 14 of the Constitution of India. Thus, it is the antithesis of equality and justice, and its emerging manifestations have been commented upon in public discourse and powerfully in recent debates in the current session of our Parliament. Some questions arise here. 1. Has populism and demagoguery resulted from a lack of performance? 2. Why have democratic procedures and commitments to rule of law failed, giving rise to the need for authoritarianism? 3. Why are the constitutional principles of equality, justice, and fraternity tending to become subservient to the majoritarian impulses of the elected majority in a first-past-the-post system? And 4th, what new impulses have made way for strident nationalism? Where, in short, does the responsibility for the sin of letting down the ideological and administrative system lie? Who are the sinners? Guilt, according to the philosopher Karl Jaspers, has categories: criminal, political, moral, and metaphysical. Where would we be justified in placing it? देखा तो सबके सर पे गुनाहों का बोझ था. Societies have changed course in the past either as a result of external aggression and cultural imposition or from internal ideological and spiritual convergence. This is the challenge. The challenge involves post-mortem, and post-mortems are gruesome business, more so of recent social and political happenings. Our generation took the post-independence developments as given. The partition and its aftermath was indeed painful, but we took the decisions of our elders as irreversible, even if their judgment was not infallible. And national security. Its success in the absence of sufficient facts was facilitated by the ideological indoctrination and the organization that accompanied it. This orientation of the voter was not challenged. Instead, ground for it seems to have been prepared over time by failures in governance and slackening in the process of commitment to the values of the Constitution. Is it then surprising that the public felt disappointed, despondent, and frustrated? The implications of strident nationalism remain to be understood. Its momentary success, selectively targeted at an obdurate and ill-intentioned neighbor, is evident. Less perceptible are its longer-term consequences. The prerequisites of a great nation vision are yet invisible. The notion of an Akhand Bharat as depicted in a cultural organization's cartography has geopolitical and demographic consequences that may not have been thought through. India lives in a world of nation-states in its own region and globally. The challenges of the future lie less in the realm of traditional interstate security and more in areas of human security, like pandemics, water, environment, climate change, eradication of poverty, etc. This requires cooperation, it requires adjustment of national demands, and it dictates a new mindset to address them. Where then is the corrective? It lies in the foundational principles of the Indian polity and their diligent implementation. This is the only alternative to the hallucination induced by a majoritarian ideology that threatens to overwhelm the plural, diverse, egalitarian, and democratic landscape we relish and cherish. The hallucinatory virus, let us admit, may have seeped into the bloodstream and through it to the interstices of the heart and of the mind. It would therefore require a sufficiently powerful antidote that has to have effective alternatives on national and global issues. Can the amnesia, the compromises, and the misperceptions of recent and not so recent past be overcome? Yes, but only if a meaningful alternative is offered. We do stand at the crossroads. Thank you. Jai Hind.
बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया जनाब हामिद अंसारी साहब, मोअज़्ज़ज़ ख़वातीन और हज़रात। सिंस एंड सिनर्स वेयर डिड इट गो रॉन्ग, इस मौजू पर आप नहायत ही अहम इम्पॉर्टेंट पुरमर्ज़ लेक्चर से हम मुस्तफ़ीद हो रहे थे। हमें पूरी उम्मीद है कि कुछ दिनों के बाद जब ये लेक्चर पब्लिश होगा तो हमारी पूरी कोशिश होगी कि आपका ये मैसेज जो है हम दूर दूर तक पहुंचा सके। आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। हज़रात, ये हमारी बहुत ही खुशनसीबी है, हम फख्र महसूस